Very cool. You're
Yeah.
you're originally from Edmonton, right?
I am originally from Edmonton.
Yeah.
Same with
I
us.
like to wear that proudly, just because like people like to shit on Edmonton, but it's like a
West
cool
Edmonton
place.
Mall. I mean, what's like? It's iconic.
We're
Like
so much more than the mall.
the pirate ship is everything with those fantasy
Everything. They
land
can't lose the
rooms.
pirate ship. They
Yeah.
had to get rid of the dolphin shows just in like whale shows for like obvious reasons, but
Have
the
having
pirate ship
dolphin
stands strong.
having dolphin shows in the mall is crazy, and I did not realize it
Yeah.
until recently. Where I was like, as a kid, I would just go watch dolphins. I'm like, and then the more I learn about dolphins, I'm like, they're so intelligent and like there's a
Yeah,
little
like this
tank, and
is
I'm
so
like,
crazy. Like I partook in so much of that, but I absolved myself. I was like a kid.
and they would jump up and hit that little ball. Anyways, I'll stop
Yeah.
so we
Yeah,
can.
no, I know what you're talking about. I went to many a show in the
Sounds like we
mall.
all want him back a little
Yeah, no.
bit.
It's yeah, exactly. We're
Like
saying
maybe
it's a
we let
very
him out for a
nostalgic
bit of
town.
it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but exactly. They like it's like where they come to work. They just like come like a
I
couple
mean,
of times a week.
They got a
it's
day
like being
job.
in an office, that's their office. We do it. Actually, I'm
Exactly. We
back.
have to
You
do
need to get
it.
dolphins back. Why do they have it so
Agreed.
good?
Thank you for joining. So just a rough overview of the show. So basically, we are trying to talk to people who've made the leap of starting a business or a creative pursuit, because getting started is the hardest part. So we really want to talk to people who took that journey. Hopefully others can learn from it, maybe even be inspired to give it a try. So to get started, could you maybe describe what you're doing currently and what your creative pursuit is?
Currently, I am a fertility coach, but I'm a chef by training. I'm also a holistic nutritionist by training, and I specialized in blood sugar first because I like had my own blood sugar issue. I had insulin resistance, and I was like, "What? Who me? No, not possible." But then I decided to just sort of like use all my skills of like culinary and of like holistic nutrition, and just like some things that aren't really talked about blood sugar, and I applied it to myself and I was able to reverse it. So that was great. And then I started helping people do the same. But then I was noticing that my clients that came to me with blood sugar issues, but like I didn't even know this and they were like trying to get pregnant, then they like started getting pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And I also love babies. I'm like the jury's still out about toddlers, but I love babies. So helping people make babies is like I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be a pursuit. And then recently, I just started a business with my mom. My mom is like an HR corporate baddie, but there's so many gaps in that business that I see like how some of the tools that I use for my business can be applied there. So we're starting that. It's in its infancy. So those are like my two like entrepreneurial pursuits.
Oh, that is great. You're solving the fertility crisis I keep hearing about. So,
Yeah. Well, I
and
mean, half of the issue is
yes.
women just don't want to have babies anymore, but I can't solve that. It's
Yes, yes,
out of
that
my
is fair.
depth.
So, I guess one question then we had for a little bit of an origin story. So, where did you grow up, and do you have any entrepreneurs in your family? Anyone who started businesses that kind of shaped, your worldview?
So I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, and I wear that proudly, as I was saying before, just because a lot of people like to dog Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, but there's a lot of really cool and amazing people there and from
I mean,
there,
I
like
would,
me.
yeah, like us, right? Yeah, all three of us,
Exactly,
Yeah,
all three of us.
yeah.
Edmonton is dope. And I do have a lot of entrepreneurs in my family. My dad is an entrepreneur. He has been in business since like I can remember in my whole life. And but like I mean not to dog him or anything, and I love him, but not always like super successful. So I've seen one side, and then my grandparents also started like a side janitorial business that was like very successful in Edmonton. It was like commercial janitorial company. So I've long seen people that are doing entrepreneurial things, but I didn't really think that I would be one. I just always knew that like I was not manageable personality in the sense of like work. Like I've had so many jobs before I decided to be an entrepreneur just because like I quit at lunch because I'm like I don't like that. I think you're doing this wrong. So I would just be like, I'm not coming back here. So I think that's also part of the reason why I became an entrepreneur and like did this pursuit is I just never found myself at home anywhere other than like doing my own thing.
Yeah. That's totally fair. So when you were a kid, then were there any like entrepreneurial ventures that you remember doing, like lemonade stands or anything small like that?
Um, you know what? No. I was never really one for a lemonade stand, but like I would be down to like go hang out, chit chat at the lemonade stand with my friends
Yeah.
who had the lemonade stand.
Yeah, yeah. So you
Um,
indulged them. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm a patron as well as an
Yes.
entrepreneur.
Nice.
But not really. I was very occupied with like competitive basketball when I was younger and like just competitive sports. So I didn't really have time for like anything but that for like a number of years.
Yes, that's totally fair. So when looking at your website, we saw you went to culinary school, you went to
Hmm.
NAITS,
Hmm.
and then when you graduated, you started a catering business. So
Yes.
let's hear about that.
So I started a catering business with my best friend. He's still one of my good friends to this day, but we went through a very, very, very rough batch. Like it was bad. We didn't talk, I think, for like maybe 8 months, but we just like needed a break. But what I realized about catering is that it's like evenings, weekends, holidays. I want to be enjoying evenings, weekends, and holidays. Like I never saw myself like doing that long term, and it just led to friction. He still has the company; it's thriving, but I kind of was just like, I don't want to do this. This is not where my heart is, and I would rather have kept the friendship. I knew if we like kept going, and I kept like forcing it, we would have never spoken again. But luckily, we only needed 8 months off because I knew when to call it quits. You know.
Yes. So what was like the I guess the value prop of this business? Like were you guys doing corporate events? Was it a certain cuisine? Like tell us about the story of like when you started it and why you took that route, I guess, opposed to just getting, a job as a chef.
I had to do like the stage, like you have to do like a practicum type thing after culinary art school in order to get your journeyman hours. And I did mine in a restaurant, and I hated it. I hated it like I hated it. Again, the evenings, the weekends, and also the busy pace. Like I love to cook, but at my own pace. Like if someone is rushing me, it's all of a sudden gone from like so much fun to something I like literally hate. And so I hated the experience. I got my hours and I was like, I'm not participating in that. And so my friend, he was catering, like he's like one of the best amateur cooks I think I've ever met, but he was catering and doing his own thing. And we are kind of like, well, let's band together, like the home chef, the like trained chef, like the story writes itself. So that's kind of why we did it. But when we started, it was kind of just doing like parties for friends and family and people that we knew. And it grew into doing like lunches. We had a contract with the university. We were doing like all of their lunches and things like that, and like dinners at the like president's house. Like, so we had like good clients, but the busier we got, the more like depressed and like hating it I became. So that was kind of my sign of like, I probably should do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
my exposure to the culinary world is like exclusively the bear, and it does look stressful. So I can see where you're coming from. So basically you had the business and you were making money. It sounds like, commercially it was going well, and then you just realized it wasn't for you. And then it sounds like the next step was that you started Vitality Kitchen. Is that correct in the timeline of things?
Yeah. So when I left the catering company, I decided to go back to school and study nutrition because I thought like, wow, what a cool competitive advantage to be like trained in nutrition and in culinary. And this was like in 2012 when that was still like was new and like burgeoning. So when I did that, after I started doing like healthy cooking lessons for people, and I was starting to get some like opportunities to work in like local television in Edmonton, and people were like, you should start a healthy meal delivery company. You should start this. And I kind of just did it because people were like, you should do that, which is a mistake to anybody listening. So that's kind of how the Vitality Kitchen was born. Like the thing about that business is it was like it quickly got away from me as far as like what I actually wanted to do. I kept just like doing things because they were doing well and like people liked them, but I didn't like them. So that's where I went after Whisk catering company, but I really hated it. I have to be so honest. It was like one of the worst times of my life. A very dark time, I can admit that now, but just because it was like so overwhelming to be doing something, like looking around at your life and being like, "Oh my god, I hate this." But I built it at the same time.
So, yeah, so I'm getting the sense that like you don't have a problem like making money by the sounds of it. Like you both
No.
these businesses, they
No.
started to make money. It was just like you're building prisons of your own
Yeah.
creation by
And
the
I
sounds of it.
also should mention that like people should also understand how to manage money, because while I was making money, my money management skills were very poor. So that was probably adding to the stress of everything. But yeah, like I feel like I didn't really know myself, and I was trying to like build the business to like validate me as a person, which is like, again, do not do that. And so when someone would say, "Oh my god, this is amazing. Like I love this. You should do this." I'd be like, "Okay, well, there's probably more validation in that, so I'll do it." But then you kind of look around and it's like you've built a life of like things that other people like, but you don't necessarily like doing, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so that was the step in between the catering company and then Vitality Kitchen. So
Hmm.
after that, so again, you realized you didn't like it. So then you transitioned to you started Vitality Kitchen after that.
Yeah, after like no, after that is Vitality Kitchen.
Oh,
That
that
whole
is Vitality. Okay,
experience,
sorry.
yes. That's
Sorry. Okay.
Vitality
So you
Kitchen.
did that. It wasn't for you. You didn't like it. So
No.
then what were the next steps after that when you realized
Um
I don't want to be doing this anymore?
then I decided to take my best meal prep clients and turn them into like private chef clients. I would just go to their house. And then in that year, so that was January of 2016, I decided to make that like shift. And for that whole, like for the first 6 months, I was like, okay, I could do this, I could do this. But always coming to Toronto because I had lived my like life before all of this. I actually studied music. I studied jazz vocals at Humber College, and then like moved back home, did culinary, the whole thing. So I was always coming back to Toronto like every summer, like every trip I could make, just to like visit friends and enjoy the city. And like during that time, I was just like, I feel like Edmonton is just like not it for me. Like, am I just gonna do private chefing in Edmonton? Like, is that really it? And so I came on a trip. Actually, no, I have to tell you the story. So I cut the tip of my thumb off, but like it was like hanging on by a thread. So I was like, while I was like prepping for something that I knew I did not want to do, like I just knew that this was not a good avenue to go down, but I was like, maybe this will make me like the Vitality Kitchen. I like um slice, or sorry, maybe this will make me like Vitality Kitchen, just like catering and like being in this place. And so I was cutting something up and I was like daydreaming about being in Toronto and like being on TV, and that's when I like sliced the top of my like thumb off. So like as I was like driving to the like hospital, because I had to drive myself, I was like spiraling. Like I'm surprised I got there safely, but I just remember saying like this cannot be the life. Like if there's ever been a sign from like the universe, from the heavens, that like you are not meant to be doing this, it's that. So I kind of took that impetus and decided to move to Toronto. It's like I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So you cut off your thumb, then
Yeah.
you decide to go to Toronto. So
Yeah.
on your website it said you moved to Toronto, no clients, less than a
No
month's
clients.
rent of money. So
Hmm.
what do you remember about that time? Like, because that's a big leap, and that's what we're kind of talking about. We like
Yeah.
to know the story of like when people,
The big leap.
summon the courage to go do that. So what stands out to you when you think about that moment in your life?
Well, it was about 6 months from thumb cut to like move, maybe like 7 months. And like honestly, leading up, it like went in waves. Like initially, I was like so excited. I like sold all my stuff. I like gave up my apartment. I like moved in with my parents. I was like, I'm doing this. Like this is gonna happen. And then once I did all that, and it felt very permanent, even though I was just like telling people like I'm gonna go for 6 months and like see. I like started to feel like petrified. Like, oh my God, I sold all my stuff. Like, I don't have a place to live. I'm like living with my parents. Like, if this doesn't go well, like this is epic failure vibes. Um, so that was the like phase of that. But then I like told my mom how I was feeling. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just stay. And she's like, not in my basement. And I was like, oh, okay, well, then I guess I have to go. So that was like the first initial of like making a big decision. You kind of feel excited in the beginning, but then when it like hits and sinks in, like, wow, this is happening, there's actually a lot of fear associated with that. But then when I moved, because I was really lucky, I have like a huge group of friends here that's only grown since I've been here. I was like really like welcomed with like open arms, like a soft place to land, like all of that. So I was really lucky for that. But the first year, I could barely tell you what happened because like it's such a blur. Like just being so freaked out about money, like having no money, none at all. Because instead of like deciding to just like take the money I got from selling my stuff, I was like, I'll pay off debt, which is a good idea, but also kind of like I was a bit too aggressive in my pursuit. The first year was just like really just like trying to keep my head above water, like still going out a lot and being very social, but just scared, am I gonna have enough money? Is like this person gonna cancel? Like where do I get clients from? But I just got really resourceful. Like every website I could post on. I was in every Facebook group as a private chef. I was in like realtor groups as like a gift to like people who just buy a house, get them some like meals prepared and like put in the fridge. Like if you like clean houses, like we could do like a partnership, like get your house cleaned and meals in the fridge. Like I was doing like everything, like every opportunity. I was kicked out of so many Facebook groups probably for like promoting when I shouldn't have been, but I was just like, I have to make this work. It wasn't until about, let's say like a year in, maybe like 18 months in, that I started to feel like, okay, I can breathe a little bit. It was like a long time.
So what were your strategies for when you were reaching out? Were you just kind of like cold calling people, emails, phone calls, joining Facebook groups and posting memes? Like what was the strategy you took?
Joining Facebook groups. If I got like a new follower on Instagram and I could like see that they were from Toronto, if I could like, get the like inside track, I would send them a message. Like asking friends if they knew anyone. There was like websites that you could go on and list yourself as like a service provider, like everything. I did it all. And like some of them I'm like, you know what? I'm like lucky to be alive just because it's like private chef, like come to your house, like female, like I'm ready. I could have been walking to my death, but luckily, angel on my shoulder, I've been fine. But I just like hustled my butt off,
Yeah.
truly. But it also like made me sick too. Like I can't gloss that over. Like I got really, really sick in like 2019, 2020, 2021, with just like autoimmune stuff, insulin resistance, all of it, and mostly stress related. So just like years of being stressed about being an entrepreneur and like finances and like always having to hustle, it takes its toll. So like self care is something I wish I had prioritized more. Now I like live for self care, but like before, not so much.
Yes. No, that's very inspiring to hear how you, I don't know, came to Toronto with nothing, started to make it work. So at this point, so you're a personal chef, so
Hmm.
you're finding clients by, Facebook groups, everything. And you eventually landed as the chef on the Marilyn Dennis show. So how did that
Yeah.
come about? Like how did you get that gig?
Honestly, I mean, if you haven't noticed already, I have like a glowing personality. Just kidding.
Did notice.
But
Yeah.
being at like, so again, because I have such like a deep network of friends that have been in like media and things, I was just like going out a lot because like I'm a social person and like meeting people. And I would like go to things and people would be like, you should be on TV. And I'm like, I know. But like nothing would ever come of it. That was kind of
Yeah.
like my like rebuttal. It was funny. We cheers and like nothing would ever come of it. And then I was at a party. It was like an Oscar party or a Golden Globe party rather. And one of my friends, who's actually one of my dearest friends, she had a bunch of people over and like they're all like, "You're so funny," because they're just like commenting on like the show. And they're like, "You should be on TV." I'm like, "I know." And then the next day, someone actually emailed me. So it just kind of happened like that. But I did have to audition. So it was like I emailed on
So
Monday
sorry.
about
So
like
who emailed you? Someone from the party emailed you? That
the party who was like a producer at
oh,
Marilyn
so they
Dennis.
okay, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, sorry. I get going and I like can't stop.
No
Um
worries.
and then so we exchanged emails on the Monday. I had my audition on the Friday and then I got cast for my first episode on like the following Tuesday. But I thought that was like normal just because that's how it went for me. But then there was someone else who I auditioned with. And so when I got booked on the Tuesday, I sent her a message. I'm like, oh my God, yay, like we got booked. And she was like, I didn't. I was like, oh. Damn. So I learned a lesson there to like sometimes
Yes.
keep things close to your chest. And then so the first 3 or 4 segments I had on Marilyn were like unpaid. You're kind of like proving yourself, which I didn't even know at the time. I just like thought they were always unpaid, but I'm like, oh my God, this is my dream, so I don't care. And then I went and I was like home one day and I saw an email and it said something about like money, like compensation. I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna now have to like pay to do this? And then I opened and it was like literally them saying they were gonna pay me now. So I was like, oh, that's sweet. So then I did that for 4 years. Best 4 years. I like had the best time. But I will say that doing something for like that long, you kind of it's hard to like branch out and do some of the things like blood sugar, talk about blood sugar, or talk about like fertility, just because it's very specialized and those shows aren't really like that. So when Marilyn ended in 2023, I kind of was like, well, maybe like I do something else. And I like really lean into this like health stuff. And like go back to that because I'd kind of been really like TV, food, chef focused and kind of like wasn't doing anything nutrition related just because I wasn't really doing that on TV and therefore a lot of the opportunities I was getting weren't like catered to like health stuff. But I love doing it. I love helping people. So
How,
I kind of
how
moved
did it
back in that
work?
direction.
How did it work on TV? Would they give you like a topic, or would you still come up with what you were going to talk about, and like how did that work?
Um, Honestly, I was one of the lucky people, I guess. I never had to pitch. They were just always asking me if I wanted, like, they'd be like, hey, are you available for this? And I'd be like, yeah, like, sweet. But again, being like out of the Marilyn bubble, because Marilyn Dennis was like iconic. Her show got all the budget, like, all the things. And so going, like, having that be my starting point was kind of like dumb of me, really, because now everything else I do just like isn't the same because when I came out of that, I really realized like, oh shoot, I should be pitching. Like I got to do all that, and I was like, I don't really want to. So that's kind of where the shift happened because I just like didn't really want to do that anymore.
Yeah. So when you were doing the show, was that like your full-time job or were you still working as a private chef as well?
I was doing that and then also just like building out like meal planning programs for people to take like a 4 week meal planning program, like a 4 week like cooking class, like series, like things like that, just because my profile allowed me to do that. And also it was like the pandemic too. Like I got Maryland in 2019 and then a year later was the pandemic. So I was also teaching food media and like how to be on camera at like a college online and then just like doing like brand deals and like recipe development and stuff pretty much.
Yeah. What was your favorite moment from doing the show?
I got to do a lot of giveaways. So those were the best because it was like literally, well, I was like obsessed with Oprah at the time. And Oprah had like, of course, her like giveaway shows where she's like giving away cars and all that stuff. And so it was like my mini like Oprah moments that I would have in my life. Like I got to do one for like back to school. I got to do a Christmas one where we like filmed this whole thing at like Canada's Wonderland and like got to go like behind the scenes. Very fun. But honestly, like my dream since I was like a little kid to be like on TV, like with Marilyn Dennis. Like I've been watching her since I was like a kid. So like my vision board had her face on it and all of that. So like when that happened, I was like, my TV career has peaked. I must do something else.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so the show ends in 2023. So as you said, TV career has peaked. So what is that when you start to move into fertility nutrition?
Yeah, that's when I started to talk more about like my blood sugar stuff just because I could. Like when you're doing partnerships with some brands, you're like literally in contract, not allowed to talk about like divisive things, like health things. Like you have to stay away from it because it's like it reflects poorly on them. So once all of that was kind of like wrapped, done and dusted, I started just sharing my own journey with like blood sugar, like my own like, fertility and reproductive journey, like just being really candid about all the things I've done to like resolve everything in that area. And just like having to like, but I had to do like, honestly, I had to get my head back into like doing a business like that because there's more like conversion marketing you have to think about. There's more like sales and like there's just more to it because it's like back in business kind of vibes. Whereas before it was like people would reach out to me. So that took, I'd say, about like 6 months to get back in the flow. But
Yeah.
now I'm in
And
the
were you
flow.
were you excited to go back to this like I imagine you probably went from like you have this consistent show where, like you said, people are reaching out. Now you got to go hustle
Mm,
again. Uh,
yeah.
did it feel like you were moving back, or were you excited to do that? Like, what did that feel
Um,
like?
I did go through like a bit of a like because the show ended in like June, and I did go through like admittedly like a little bit of a depression. Like I was, but like not like a serious one, but just I was low. But as a result, I was like, I'm gonna go out. I'm going out to eat. Like I'm just gonna like pamper myself. Like if I want to do it, I'm doing it. Like I'm trying to make myself feel happy, just because it was such a shift, and not only a shift like professionally, but personally. Like I loved the Marilyn Dennis show. Like I also watched it because I watched it my whole life. So when it went away, I was like, well, damn. Now what do I do in the morning? So it's a lot.
Yeah. Yes. No. So okay. So you starting out, you're hustling again. What was like, your main, I guess, your first step to like acquiring customers? Because I imagine this is like a totally different customer base. So, before you
Oh,
sounds like you're doing meal
totally.
plans, which would be everyone. Now you're targeting, women. So what's did you like test out your idea with people? Like, did you do any market research? Like, what were, I guess, the first steps when you're starting up this new business?
I had to get my like client nailed down. I know it's like the most unsexy part about like starting a business is like, who's my client? Like, what language do they speak, and all of that. I took a few business courses, like just a few like sales courses, things like that, just to sort of like get my head in that space. But the first place that I started was honestly like I had to sort of like shift my audience from like food, meal planning to like blood sugar, health, fertility. So I also had to just accept that I was going to see like some steep drop offs when I started changing my content, but also like I was still getting followers. So it was like, it balanced out. So that was the first thing that I did was like sort of change my content, change my messaging.
Sure.
Um, and then I had to like I had already products and like services and like deliverings and like workshops and all these things. I just had to like sort of change their positioning, which is like with any business you have to do that. Um, and then just like hustling, like doing like lots of newsletters, like doing a lot of live videos, like starting a Substack, like trying to think of like all the things I do. TikTok, like I grew a TikTok and was like making money off TikTok for a while. But TikTok is lawless, so I'm not really on TikTok anymore. Um, but
So how do you know what works? Like, were you just sort of trial and error, or were you reading up about it? Like, how did you learn how to first get followers on these different methods, but then also turn those into potential clients?
well, I think it's important for people to know that like the first like 2 months of doing anything in any facet of your business is test. Because it's like you don't really know what works, because what worked for someone else in theory might not have any meaning for you. But it's like when you do something and if it like hits, then it's like, okay, we'll try and reverse engineer that. Like, why did it hit? What about it? Was it the messaging? Was it the video? Was it that it was like a trending audio? Was it the hook? Like, what was it? Because if you're just like trying to get it perfect and it's like I'm only going to do things that work, you're like never going to do anything because like so many things will fail. But that's kind of like the point. That's like I think the thing about entrepreneurship I always say to people is like you have to get really used to like being so bad at like so many things to start with. And it like does a lot to your self-worth if you're not prepared for like what it can do to your self-worth, because you think like I don't get it, I'm an idiot, or like I don't have a lot of money. Like your net worth being tied in with like your self-worth is a big thing. um so I that was a tangent, but I just like feel like that's something that like you kind of have to say to people because this is such a process. Like I've been doing
W-
this for so long.
Was that ever tough for you? Like you said, when you're starting something new, you're going to be, shitty at it, and it's going to take a while to learn. Did that,
Yeah.
I don't know, was that a struggle for you, or did you find like you were resilient enough from the start?
I mean, I'm resilient, but it does like, entrepreneurship is like a marathon. It is
Yeah.
absolutely not a sprint. I will say the only thing that I was like, I'm just like naturally gifted at is like TV. Like, if you put me in front of a camera, like, I just like, I can go. So that was a really like easy part of my life. I'll say that. Very stress free. I just like showed up. I was like, this is amazing. But I would say that, I mean, it's just like, it's hard to like, over the years, I would say that you have to be resilient, and I am resilient, but that you got to give yourself space to be like, damn, I thought that was going to work, and it didn't. Because if you
Oh,
don't, you're kind of just like you're like not allowing yourself to actually grieve something, because then you can't even understand what went wrong, what was the lesson. Like I see people do that a lot. They're like, they don't like sit in it and like, what went wrong? Damn, that sucks.
what strategies or like tips would you give to someone who's trying to become more resilient? So you're facing these challenges, your business may be struggling a bit. Did you find anything that worked really well for you for kind of getting through that kind of rough patch?
Well, I do have a saying that like all my friends have adopted. It's called fly above. And it's like all of the BS is down here. And that can be, people not buying, or like you feeling like, recession, tariffs, like all of these different things. But you kind of have to fly above it. And the reason you do is because your energy is much better. And I have noticed in my life, when I like look back and sort of take inventory, all of the bad business moves I made were ones that were made when I was not settled. When I was just like not, when I was letting all of that stuff really get into me and like frazzle me up. And so I like to fly above because it keeps me calm. It keeps me away from the like pressures of it, so I can look at things objectively and be like, okay, what do I have to do here to like sort this out? But I would say resilience is like, for some people, they're just not. Honestly, like there's some people that are just not cut out for this type of life. They aren't. And that's okay too. So I think some people try entrepreneurship and they're like, well, it's not working out, or they hate it and they think they have to stick with it because they like took that leap. There is no shame in being like, nah, I actually don't like this. Because it is like it's a unique path.
Yeah, we had a previous guest who talked about like when you start a business, there's always going to be like roadblocks that come and they could make your business fail, but he views them as like filters where it's like if you're going to make it happen, like this roadblock, it's hitting everyone and it's a filter for who really wants it.
Totally.
So, and the
Totally.
other thing too, I mean, if you ever write a biography, Fly Above is a pretty good
Oh,
title. Like,
hey,
for,
copywritten, copywritten.
I mean, I keep seeing there's like a new book out. I think it's called like Let Them Theory or
Oh yeah. Oh
some,
my gosh, my
but
mom
it's
lives for Mel Robbins. Yes,
okay, well,
I've
I
heard
feel
of
like
it.
she kind of stole your idea. Like that's what you're talking about. It's just
Well, it's mine would be have a different seasoning on it. So like the book
okay.
is still there. The book is
Yeah,
still
yeah,
there.
yeah. Perfect.
But yeah, like I think that some people just don't have, and it's okay to admit that. I've had a lot of friends start businesses and like get jobs again. It's all good. Have
Yeah.
to recognize
Yes.
when to
No,
say when.
that's totally fair. So now that you have shifted into the fertility space, like what is it like? I guess I'm curious what your typical customer is like or your typical mandate when they hire you, I guess. Is it like a one-time consultation? Are you like
Mm-hmm.
working with them for an extended period of time and then like when they're having a baby, you're like job done? Or like what's kind of the like I guess the process when you get a customer?
So a lot of my customers are women over 35, some over 40 who are trying to conceive. Generally, the work that we do is one, reprogramming a lot of just like outdated beliefs about fertility, because there's like a lot of that out there. But also, most people don't realize that fertility has a lot to do with like an egg quality and sperm quality has like so much to do with what's going on with your body. Like, is your body baby friendly as opposed to like how old are my eggs, or like how old is my sperm? Um, so it's like that's usually where we like focus, and that tends to be on blood sugar balance, which is metabolic health. Honestly, like if I could impart anything to like even entrepreneurs, like if you're trying to take care of yourself, knowing how to balance your blood sugar will completely change your life. But it'll also completely change people's fertility. So that we also talk about gut health, inflammation, which I mean everyone's talking about inflammation now. And my approach is like all from the root of like nutrition and like how we can take food and also habits and stack them on top of each other so that our body can actually do what it's supposed to do. Like we're not trying to like make the body do anything. We're just like trying to clear a path for it to be able to do it. Um, and once they're pregnant, I mean, I will support my clients until they're like trying to have their second baby, honestly. But generally, once they're pregnant, other people take over. I do give some like suggestions for like, this is how you choose a midwife or how to choose an OBGYN. But a lot of that just has to do with like advocacy. But I try and like keep throughout, like weave throughout my coaching of like, you really got to advocate for yourself. Like women's reproductive health is just like not valued, even though they like want us to have kids. It's nuts. So it's like instead we have to be thinking about like, how can I make my body in the best state that it's going to ovulate like I wanted to, get pregnant, implant, like all of that. So that's like my approach. I work in tandem with clinics if they want to. Like if someone has like a clinical plan, I'm there to support that, like to make sure that your body is ready to take that on, because IVF and IUI are very like heavy drug protocols, so it can be a lot. And so knowing how to support your body going through that can improve chances of success. But I also work with people who are just like trying to conceive naturally. But generally 35 plus, the odd under 35, but generally 35 plus.
Yes. And then,
Do
oh,
you?
good.
No, I was just going to ask: is there like what like the customers, are they just typically like people who are living in cities or who are like professionals, or are you finding it's more individuals coming that are trying to think ahead? Like
Um,
who would you say fits into this category best?
I definitely have a few, like, I do really promote prep. Like, honestly, the best thing you can do is think about it before you're like ready to do it. So I do have some people that come into like my vortex because of that. But a lot of people, it's like, I'm trying, I'm like not succeeding. Please help me, generally. But then there's some people, and this is like, these are like outliers for sure, but they're doing something like egg retrieval, egg freezing, and they also just like want to prep their body for that.
So, so you've got a pretty big online presence. You've got a lot of social media followers. You've got your website.
Mm,
How did you kind of grow that? Because I know that's like a big part of being an entrepreneur is like people know who you are. What
totally.
was like the biggest key, I guess I would say, to getting like an online presence with a lot of followers so people know who you are?
Um, I would say with something like Instagram, it's like everyone hates to hear it, but consistency. They really just reward you like doing it all the time. So like I've just been consistent over the years. But like one thing I say to people is sometimes it's better with like any social media to just like start over. Like start something new with like fresh energy, like no anything on it. Because sometimes people have like these accounts that they're like holding on to, and it's like maybe you need to like SEO it different, name it different, get a new, like you have bad followers, bots and stuff, and you just like need to start over, especially on Instagram. So with Instagram, I've just been posting, following their rules for years. And then TikTok, I went viral, honestly. Like I have like a quarter of a million followers on TikTok. Honestly, like 100,000 of those came because I posted a post about talking about like when you wake up in the middle of the night to pee all the time, it's probably not your bladder, it's your blood sugar. And like the comments, like it was in favor and not in favor, but like the engagement was crazy. Like my phone died with all of the notifications. Like I had to take the notifications off. So like TikTok is weird though. I will say for like of all the platforms to build on, I would say that would probably be my least recommended because it's so unstable, as we all know. And also, you have to have the thickest skin to deal on TikTok. Like the comments are wild, like wild. And if you go viral, like prepare to like hear some really crazy things about your appearance, your voice, your this, your that. So TikTok is like, but I have a big following on there, so I definitely still post there. And then
Yeah.
now I'm building a YouTube. But if I could say to any entrepreneur, start your list. Use all of these avenues to build your email list because that's honestly where I actually like make the real money from like my
Interesting.
followers.
So how do you make, I guess, tell us about that. Like, so your email list, like I guess, what's the value in that and how does that make you money, as you said?
So because if I'm like say doing like a freebie, like a free workshop or something, or like a free checklist, like I have like a testing guide for like the testing you should get before you start trying to have a baby. Then it's like all of those people are like warm leads that have opted into being on your list. So it's like you can advertise to them like once a week, twice a week with like an information rich email, but that also has like an offer at the end of it. And they're also like primed to it because they're like they've also already told you, hey, I like talking about fertility or learning about fertility. So it's like, I'm going to sell you something fertility related. I also segment my list pretty well. So, like people who did the fertility summit, someone who downloaded this or that or the other thing. So, again, I can sort of like gear where I want, like how I want the message to be. But yeah, your email list you also own. Like you could get booted off Instagram or TikTok in like 2 seconds. It happens to people all the time. But if you have an email list, you can start up a new Instagram or TikTok and say like, "Hey everybody, I got booted. This is the new one. And you'll be like, you can get like so many followers in like no time.
So do you find like TikTok's really hard to get people to convert or like get off TikTok to say, because like this is the one thing I always wonder about TikTok. You get lots of views, but they're really driving you just to watch, have an
Hmm.
engaging video and move to the next one, but stay on the platform. Did you find that transition to get people to your email list really hard from say TikTok or Instagram?
You have to go viral on TikTok, but it's cheap. Like it's cheap engagement and like, and not to be like derogatory, but it's like a lot of people, like you said, they've never seen you before. They like the video. Small percentage of them might click to your profile, and even a smaller percentage will click on the link. So it's again, aren't going viral and you have a lot of volume probably like coming in, it's not going to be a high conversion from TikTok for me anyway. Like I can only speak for myself. It's places like YouTube where you have to work really hard to get like the respect of the algorithm, and Instagram that I find convert better.
Interesting. So that all makes sense. And at the start of the episode, you mentioned that you are looking to start a new business with your mom that
Hmm.
is related to HR, so corporate
Hmm.
HR. So what I guess initiated that shift? Because that's not related, I guess, to
No,
like
not at all.
culinary or anything like that. So tell us a little bit about why you want to give this a shot.
One, I would just like love to work with my mom. I'm an only child, so like we're super close. Think it would be like fun. And I've never started a venture with like so much financial backing because she like works in corporate HR. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so great. But also, working in the fertility space is very emotionally charged because you're talking about like some really tough things with people. I'm like looking, I'm excited to sell and work at something else that isn't as emotionally charged as kind of like an outlet in a way too. It's like a side business. Like this is like fertility is my main business, but like doing something on the side and helping sort of my mom transition to like what she's gonna do after she retires in like 5 years, like I think is like a fun project as well.
Yes. Okay. So you're going to be doing it in tandem with the fertility business.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fertility
Yeah.
first.
Yes. Okay. And that makes sense. So, awesome. I think we've got a really good sense of like your career and things like that. So it's again, we're trying to like speak to, the process of getting started, overcoming that hump. So, we usually ask some questions that are kind of related to it. So on your journey, which obviously is, you've started multiple businesses, moved cities, was there ever a moment that you almost said like, F it, I'm just getting like a corporate job where it was just really hard? Is there a moment you can think back to that was just like a really tough time?
So yes, and I almost did. So when I moved to Toronto, it was 2 years almost to the day of me like, well, it's 2 years to the day of me like flying from Edmonton to Toronto to move that I like had my Maryland debut. But like, at about the 18-month mark, I was just like so tired of being a private chef and like I was just like, do I get a job? So I had a super long interview process with one of those like prepared box food companies that come to your door or whatever. I'm not going to say the name because like I don't like them. But I got like all the way to the fifth and last interview, and then I didn't get it. And they like let me down in an email that was like so like blasé. I was like, that's so crazy that I did five of these interviews and like I got an email. But whatever, I'm over it, even though it might not sound like it. But I like so then I was like, okay, well I guess I'm private chefing, like because I planned my life with having this like new corporate job. I'm like I'm gonna be like a recipe developer for like this like chef company, and like I was like excited about that. Um, and then I didn't get it. But then I got Marilyn like literally 5.5 months later, and I would not have been able to do Marilyn had I gotten that job. So it's like it was meant to not happen. But that was like I've always had moments of weakness where I'm like, damn, you know what would be nice? Just like every 2 weeks, like a paycheck just like dropping in my bank account without having to do any, well, you have to do something for it, but without having to like
Yeah.
hustle for it, process a payment, like all of that. But that was the closest I ever got to like truly like hanging up my entrepreneurial hat. But the universe had other plans.
When you're going through this, is that in the back of your head where you're like, oh, if this doesn't work, I can just get a job? Is that how you kind of motivate yourself? Or do you more just fly by the seat of your pants and go for it?
I'm a fly by the seat of your pants and go for it person. But I also am really lucky that I have a huge support network. I have a very large safety net. So I think that's also like fair we have to talk about, because I think that some people, it's like there's some people that like shouldn't do that, but I was able to. I've been able to be like sort of carefree and just like, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna do this. And my parents have like, they're like, my mom and my stepdad are like two of the most supportive people. Like I could literally say like, I'm gonna build a spaceship, and they'd be like, okay, like where are we gonna get the parts, like what's
Yeah.
the plan? So I'm lucky for that. But yeah, I mean, moments where I'm like, oh, I'm about to leave this, but never really materialized.
I do have one question about solo versus co-founding. Um, One thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is it's tough to do something by yourself. So they want to bring something in and they naturally fall towards doing it with a friend when maybe they should be doing it with someone who has a different skill set or an opposite sort
Mm-hmm.
of skill set. Do you have thoughts on that or things that you've learned that you could give advice for people who, is it better to just try to go as far as you can by yourself, or do you think that there's a strategy that could people should be aware of when they're trying to decide whether to use a co-founder?
It depends on the business, I think, like whether you bring in help. But honestly, like I wouldn't do it with a friend. Um, so when I was running the Vitality Kitchen, even though I hated it, my cousin was my business manager. And it was actually really nice having a family member, because we're like sisters. I could talk to her crazy. I could be like, "Are you an idiot?" And then she'd be like, "Are you an idiot?" And then we'd like spat, and then we'd like be fine like 5 minutes later. So that actually worked. But it's like if it's like a friend, friends don't have that kind of allegiance to you. And sometimes when you're in business, like cooler heads do not prevail. And so you have to ask yourself, do you like this person as a friend? Because they might not be one. They might just be your business partner one day. Because you have had so many disagreements or scraps or whatever. It's not always the case. You see profiles of best friends making it all the time. But I mean, the trail of like best friends that didn't make it, I'm sure is like huge. So I would say just beware. And I also think that if you're thinking I can't do it alone because you think that you can't do it alone, like you don't think you have the capacity, um, maybe you have to ask yourself, like, why do I think I can't do it alone? Because maybe you can, and that's just like a fear thing happening.
Yeah. When you look at your journey, what are you most proud of?
Oh, well, I'm really proud of the Maryland thing. Like I said, I like when I was leaving Edmonton, I had like no money. I was living with my parents. I was like going out telling people like I'm moving to Toronto to be on the Marilyn Dennis show. And I know for a fact that people were like laughing at me, calling me crazy names and saying I was nuts and like I'd be back and like all of that stuff. And when I landed that show, I felt so good. I was just like, F all of them. But I also was like, I love it for me because like my grandma who's passed away, like growing up, like her and I, like we loved talk shows, and she loved Marilyn Dennis. And so it was like one of those things where I was like, I kind of did that for us. So that's probably like my most proud moment, but also just like moving to Toronto and like it working out doesn't always go that way.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, what role do you think like manifesting had in it? Because I mean, I didn't realize you were like literally talking about I'm going to be on the Marilyn Dennis show before
Oh
you
yeah.
left. Because like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I
That's
know.
insane. So,
I know.
I don't know. Is that like have you done that in other areas of your life? Like, is that something you consciously try to do? Like, you set time to think about what you want to achieve? I'm just because that does seem insane. That it
Oh,
basically,
I'm
yeah.
gonna fucking blow. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna blow your mind.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
We're okay to swear.
so okay, sweet. Oh, we're okay to swear. Oh my god, I've been holding my tongue the whole time. So I flew out of Edmonton on February 7th, 2017 at 8:05 a.m. My call time for Marilyn Dennis was February 7th at 8:05 a.m. 2 years later to the day. Like that's
That's
crazy.
nuts. That is
That's
nuts.
nuts. And then also on my vision board, there was like a picture of a neighborhood, and it just looked like a really beautiful like Toronto tree lined street. I like literally lived on a street that had it looked like it could have been that street. So people who are like, oh, vision boards, like woo woo, they work. They fucking work. Pardon my language, or not pardon my language. But I also think that like some people do vision boards and then they don't do anything. You have to like do stuff, take risks. Like if you want like a big life, you have to take some big risks that might fail, but you kind of have to take the risk and try it. But I think that like manifesting, or like for some people it's prayer, or like whatever it
Yeah.
is, I think it kind of just Like, it helps you think like, okay, even if I don't feel like I got it, like the universe has got it.
Yeah.
Hopefully. You kind of have to like live, and I've also like been described by some of my friends as delusional, which I take as a compliment,
Yeah.
because it's like I believe it's possible. Like, it's like if I have the idea to do something, like why not? Like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean that's very cool. That's inspiring. I'll need to start thinking about that. So,
You got to do a
um,
vision board.
yes.
Do you have your fertility clients do that too? Make a vision board using AI generated baby imaginator?
Yes.
Actually, I tell all my fertility clients to completely like fall back on any like baby stuff, because it makes them feel pressure that they don't even know is there, because they see the thing that they want that they don't have all the time. So like sometimes, in some cases, a vision board actually could just like flare your stress. So I always say to my clients, like, we are in the prep phase. It's about her. It's about like her body and like prioritizing her. Because also in the fertility journey and just in life in general, it's always about the baby. It's always about the egg. We don't think about the woman that is carrying the baby who has the egg. And also, the sperm matters very much too. But I think that it's like this might be the only time in a woman's life where she gets to be really selfish about taking care of her and like pouring into her and resting when she wants to and eating indulgently because it's actually really good for her hormones. And so it's like, I think that like that's more important than necessarily like seeing the vision, because it's like the vision is you.
Yeah. How how do you hope your customers see you? Like when you know the your mandate is done, I guess that sounds like a very formal way to
Yeah.
put it, but like you know, what impact do you hope you have on them and how they, you know, speak to you and the impact you had on their lives?
Well, I just had a pregnancy announcement today, so I had someone tell me they were pregnant this morning, so that like made me like levitate out of my chair. But she literally said, "You're the secret sauce," and I was like, "Ah, I love that." So I think I'm gonna go with that. So if you see that plastered all over my socials, you know where it came from. But I think that I would hope that like they just like when they look at their baby or when they look back at their journey, like I'm a part of the light part of that,
Yeah.
and the hopeful part. Just because like my sessions are a lot like this, we just like talk shit, but
Yeah.
also weave in like
Yeah.
the health stuff, so it doesn't feel so clinical, because that's actually I think where we're going wrong with fertility.
Yeah. Well, now the problem is like you got another option for your biography title, Secret Sauce, right?
I know.
Both
I
are
know.
good.
Fly above. Flying
Like
above is the secret sauce.
maybe like a subtitle. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. If you need a
We did good
foreword,
work
Taylor
here
or I.
today. Yeah. Yeah.
Has anyone named a baby after you yet?
No, but I always say Bianca is a beautiful name. My middle name is Sasha. Like, hello, there's so much to choose from.
Yeah, Stephen and
So no
Taylor, if
naming
you have any
rights yet.
boys. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, even Osbourne for like a boy, that's like kind of like chic too. So
Yeah.
there's lots of options.
So we do want to give you a chance to promote your socials and where people can find and follow you. Yeah, where can people learn more?
So I am on YouTube at the Fertility Diet Coach. I'm on Instagram at fertility.diet.lifestyle. I just changed it, so that's why I had to pause. And then on TikTok, I'm at Glucose Tips for the Girls, because that's how it started, was Glucose Tips for the Girls. And then that's pretty much it. Those are where you find me easiest.
Gotcha. And the very last question that we like to ask everyone
Okay.
is if you met someone who's thinking about taking a risk, whether putting something out there, whether it's a business, art, or whatever, and they're hesitant, they're scared, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say in a world where everyone is doing the least, you should venture to do the most. And so that would be to put it out. The only thing it can happen is it doesn't work out, but it's like, so who cares? Like, I feel like a lot of people, they hesitate because they think, what are people going to think of me for doing that? Like, they're going to think I'm a failure. People don't give a hell. We are thinking about our own lives. And so do it. You might learn something. You might make a little scratch. You might like change the world. Who knows? But you'll never know if you don't do it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Bianca. This has been fantastic. It was great to learn about you and your journey and everything like that. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we really appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me. I love Edmonton people. See, Edmonton people are dope.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And
Agreed.
dolphins are dope. Everything's good.
Everything's dope.
Yes. All right. All the best. Have a fantastic weekend. And yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch.